take a look around. Now take a look inside. You're operating the most complex machine in the known universe, your brain, and it's running on software that hasn't had a major update in about 2 million years. Think about that. It's an ancient operating system, built for a world of saber-toothed cats and rival tribes, and yet here you are trying to use it to navigate office politics and social media. And that mismatch? Well, that's the source of pretty much all our modern-day conflict.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You walk into a room, you meet someone for the first time, and this little alarm goes off in the back of your head. There's no good reason for it, no logic, but you just feel that something is off. Something feels wrong. So where on earth does that feeling come from? Here's the thing. That feeling, it isn't a bug in your system. It's not a sign that you're broken or paranoid or too judgmental. No, it is a core feature of your survival software, and it's been beta tested and perfected over hundreds of thousands of generations. It is a piece of ancient life-saving technology, and to understand how it really works, we have to go back and look at the original engineering.
Okay, so the first layer of this programming, the absolute bedrock of it all, is attachment. And forget about the greeting card version of this. We're talking about the brutally effective biological kind, the raw, powerful mechanism that ensures the next generation even has a fighting chance to exist.
You have to understand, evolution does not gamble on the survival of a baby. It can't just cross its fingers and hope a parent feels like caring for a completely helpless infant. So it built a failsafe. It hardwired the command to care directly into the brain's physical structure.
And here's how it works. When a woman gives birth, her brain is just flooded with a whole cocktail of stimuli. The baby's specific smell, the sounds it makes, its weight in her arms, its temperature. This sensory explosion triggers a massive release of a hormone called oxytocin. And this isn't just about creating a warm feeling. Oh no, it acts as a biological command, kicking off the construction of entirely new pathways in her brain. And I mean this literally. It's a physical renovation of the brain. New anatomical structures are actually built, and they are permanent. Now, where do these new connections lead? They plug directly into the amygdala, the ancient fear center of the brain. The result? A permanent, hardwired, non-negotiable fear for her child's safety for the rest of her life. And this is where you see the stakes. The system isn't about happiness or personal fulfillment. It's about raw survival. In our evolutionary past, if a mother didn't have this overwhelming oxytocin response, if her brain didn't physically rewire itself, she wouldn't be compelled to do the work. The infant would be neglected, it would die, and that genetic line would just end. Full stop. But okay, a bonded mother and child are still incredibly vulnerable, so the engineering had another problem to solve. It had to deal with external threats. It had to build a perimeter defense. So a similar, just as profound transformation happens in the male brain, but it uses a different chemical channel, vasopressin. You can think of this hormone as activating the Guardian protocol. It rewires the brain not for nurturing from within, but for protection from without. It creates that non-negotiable drive to defend the territory and protect the family unit at all costs. Let's be really clear about the world this system was built for. A mother who is completely focused on a newborn is a target. A family unit without a vigilant, aggressive, protective perimeter was frankly just food for the things that hunted in the tall grass. This protective drive wasn't some personality trait. It was a biological necessity. And natural selection was the quality control here, and it was absolutely ruthless. Any male ancestor who lacked this vasopressin-fueled response, who wasn't instinctively driven to create that protective wall, he and his family were eliminated. He died, the infant died, and his genes were just wiped from the timeline. No exceptions. So you start to see this chain of survival taking shape. It's a security system with multiple layers. Oxytocin secures the core bond, vasopressin secures the immediate perimeter, but there was still one more layer that was absolutely critical, because no single family could ever hope to survive the prehistoric wilderness alone. And this brings us to the core computational logic that's running underneath all of these instincts. It's not emotional, not really. It's mathematical. It's the cold, hard calculus of detecting a threat. The number one rule of the ancient world was simple. To be alone was to be dead. Survival was a team sport. So our brains actually developed physical structures designed to cause immense psychological pain, what we call anxiety and distress, at just the thought of being separated from the group. That feeling of social anxiety you get, that's an ancient leash trying to keep you safely inside the pack. So how did this system decide what was a threat? Well, it used some simple, brutal math. See, in the wild, there are two ways you can be wrong. First, a false positive. You see a rustling bush and you mistake it for a tiger. What's the cost? You waste a few calories running away, maybe you feel a little embarrassed. But a false negative? That's when you see a tiger and mistake it for a rustling bush. The cost is everything. Evolution looked at those odds and programmed our brains with one simple directive. When in doubt, assume it's a tiger.
So that bad vibe you get, that's your brain assuming it's a tiger. It's your highly sensitive, finely tuned malevolence detector going off. In a lawless world with no police, no courts, no safety net, your intuition, that gut feeling that something is wrong, was the only thing standing between your family line and total extinction. We don't have these feelings because we're judgmental. We have them because the ancestors who didn't, they got eaten.
And you gotta realize, this system wasn't built overnight. Just think about the numbers. If you take an average generation time of about 20 years, over the last 2 million years, your direct ancestral line went through at least 100,000 versions of this pass-fail test. 100,000 generations where the overcautious and the hypervigilant survived, and the trusting and naive did not.
And this really hammers home the ultimate point. The bond between a mother and child, the protective bond of a family, the social bond to the tribe. Any break in that chain, a mother who doesn't care, a father who doesn't protect, an individual who gets cast out from the group, it wasn't just a tragedy. It was a guaranteed dead end. It was an extinction event for that line of DNA.
Which, of course, brings us to right now. To you. Because all of this ancient, battle-hardened code is still running on the hardware inside your skull. And it's trying desperately to make sense of a world it was never, ever designed to handle.
I want you to let this sink in. You are a modern human dealing with modern problems, but you are running on firmware that was finalized back in the Pleistocene era. The hardware is ancient. The environment is brand new. This right here is the central conflict of your entire emotional life.
This is what your threat detection system was built to find. The subtle movement in the periphery, the predator hiding in plain sight, the immediate, physical, lethal danger.
And this is its modern echo. It's the exact same program, just running in a different context. It's scanning for signs of malevolence, for threats to your status, your safety. The shadow in the grass has been replaced by a weird glance from a coworker, a shift in your boss's tone of voice, that feeling that you just don't belong. It's the same alarm, just for a different kind of predator.
So the most important thing to take away from all of this is simple. Those anxieties, those fears, those gut feelings that you've probably been told are weaknesses, they're not. They are the inherited, fine-tuned survival instincts that kept every single one of your ancestors alive for 100,000 generations. You have them precisely because every person in your direct lineage was a winner in the most brutal game imaginable. So the question has to change. It's no longer, why am I so anxious, or what is wrong with me? The real question, the one this knowledge forces us to ask, is this. Now that you understand the engineering, now that you know you're not flawed, but that you are battle-tested, how do you choose to operate this magnificent, ancient machine?